What's up, Eagles fans? Welcome into the All-22 review driven by AAA. I'm Fran Duffy, joined by NFL Film senior producer Greg Cosell. The Eagles win 32-30 on the last-second field goal for second-year kicker Jake Elliott. Just a crazy, dramatic game here. A lot of plays for us to break down. Let's start on the very opening drive for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, well, let's start on that Darren Sproles touchdown, and this came on 4th and short, Greg. The Eagles started this drive 3 for 3 on 3rd down. Zach Ertz, a big part of what they were doing on that opening drive, but they go to Darren Sproles here on that critical 4th down play on what has been a go-to pass concept for this Eagles offense going back the last few years, and especially here under Doug Peterson.
No question. We saw it a few weeks ago against the Cowboys when Carson Wentz hit Sproles, I think, for 25 yards, also on a 4th down play. It's that mesh concept where they've got the 2 crossing routes inside and then the wheel route as well. And that's a critical part of this, the wheel route out of the backfield, normally to the boundary side of the field, the short side of the field. And what you're really looking for is you're looking for the mesh concept inside, unless the wheel shows immediately because of all the traffic inside. And in this kind of situation, 4th and short, you're pretty much anticipating the defense playing man-to-man coverage. So what you have here is a safety, Justin Reed, not a linebacker, a safety, good move by the Texans, better athlete on Darren Sproles. But what you get here, as we say, the mesh creates some issues as Justin Reed tries to work to the sideline to deal with Sproles. So let's run this, and you'll see exactly what happened. So if you freeze it right about there, that's perfect. Because what you get here is Reed trying to work through to get to Sproles. And what happens is Nick Foles sees that. He now knows that he has a pick or a rub, and it's a natural pick or rub, so it's perfectly legal. And now he knows that Justin Reed cannot get there in time to get to Darren Sproles, and this becomes the quick throw. So let's run it, and you'll see exactly what happens. Gets it out to him, Reed's late. Sproles has a lot of open space, and then he becomes Darren Sproles and gets in the end zone.
Yeah, if that safety pre-snap had been lined up, say, 5 yards further off the ball, he's able to play over that contact, and Nick Foles is playing the mesh route.
Or even maybe a few yards further outside.
Sure, exactly.
Right. But once you see where he is inside, there's a lot of traffic for that safety to get through.
Yeah, it was a great throw there by Nick Foles. Great job by Darren Sproles making a play with the ball in his hands. Eagles go up 7-0. All right, so from one big Darren Sproles play to another, let's take a look now. The Eagles down 9-7 at this point in the second quarter, and we're going to get another big wheel route for a big catch in the passing game by the veteran running back. Greg, take us into this play and what we see here from Darren Sproles.
This is a similar concept, but a different play. What you're doing is you want to get Sproles, who's offset in the backfield, to the boundary, the short side of the field. You want to get him on the wheel route. And you want to get him one-on-one. He's working one-on-one against the linebacker, Zach Cunningham. Pretty much every team in the league now to the boundary will match up man-to-man, even if they're in a zone concept, because that's just the way the league has evolved. So what the Eagles do when they understand this is they take Alshon Jeffrey, who's the ex-ISO receiver, the single wide receiver to the boundary, and he's basically just going to stem inside to try to create a natural pick or a natural rub to force Zach Cunningham to have to work either over the top of it or underneath it. In an ideal world, you'd like Cunningham to go underneath it because then there's no chance he can play Sproles' wheel route, which is a vertical route.
That's right.
So let's start this play, and you'll see what happens. So if you freeze it perfect. Right now, look at Jeffrey. He's basically setting a pick, so the key thing here is you can't contact Cunningham. If you contact Cunningham, that will be called. So you set it, but then you move at the last minute. Now what happens? Cunningham trying to play man-to-man on Sproles. He goes underneath Jeffrey. You have him beat right at that moment. So this again, if you run it now, you see how well designed this is. You can see he's beat. He cannot catch him. Well thrown ball by Nick Foles. You get another big explosive play in the pass game on a basic two-man boundary route concept.
So the big play to Darren Sproles moves the Eagles down the field, and this ended up being about a 38-play drive here, Greg, because they had a bunch of plays.
I think we're still watching
red zone.
it.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, well, let's take a look at now how this long drive ended, and this ends on a 4th down play to Zach Ertz on the goal line, Greg. A play that we've seen here from the Eagles in the past over the last couple of years, a favorite for Doug Peterson.
No, and they do it from the tight red zone as we are now. They do it from a little further out in the higher red zone. Here they're basically at the 1-yard line. And what it is it's a 3-man boundary route concept. So you see the 3 receivers right here, and Zach Ertz will catch this touchdown. He's inside right here. But the whole design here is to create Ertz with a one-on-one. So what you do is you want his route, obviously, to be the route you're throwing to, but what you're doing here is you're having one receiver go inside, and you're having another receiver work outside, and you create the one-on-one for Zach Ertz. And that's exactly what they do. And as we've said, we've seen this so many times before. So let's just run this and see exactly how they do it. So if you freeze it right here, perfect. Because what do you have? Right there, you've got Goddard going inside. You've got Golden Tate going outside. And now you have the one-on-one. And because of Ertz starting inside as number 3 in the trips bunch and then angling and stemming outside, you get Aaron Colvin working that way because that's his man-to-man responsibility. And right now he's concerned that Ertz is going outside. So he turns his body, which you can see, and now he's in no position at all to play Ertz as he breaks back inside. And let's finish this off. And this becomes pitch and catch for an easy touchdown. Really well designed, beautifully executed on the route by Ertz.
Yeah, a play that they've run a bunch of times to Zach Ertz. I remember last year.
We've broken that down numerous times.
Exactly right. So big go-to play for Doug Peterson. Comes up big for them. They go up 13-9 here in the second quarter. All right, so now the Eagles are getting the ball now down 16-13 in this game, Greg. And we're going to see a big play, one of the bigger plays of the day, a 52-yard catch from Nick Foles to Alshon Jeffrey on a slant route. But what I found to be interesting was that the Eagles came out on first down in a 13 personnel set. That means one running back, that's Darren Sproles, in an empty set, and 3 tight ends, all 3 guys, Richard Rodgers, Zach Ertz, and Dallas Goedert, all at the top of the screen. As a defense, how do you react when you see 13 personnel empty in an early down?
Yeah, it's first and 10, it's empty. So normally what defenses will do is they'll check to his own coverage. They don't match up man-to-man to this. They'll check to his own coverage. And here what the Texans did, Fran, is they matched up with 2 split safeties. It's a cover 2 concept. So that's what the Texans are doing. They're playing a cover 2 concept with 2 split safeties. And what normally happens in cover 2 is you get the Mike linebacker, okay? When he's going to open up, he will almost always open up to the 3 receiver side of the formation. And that happens to be to the field side as well here. So that's what happens. Now, we didn't point out Alshon Jeffrey, who's in the slot here. He's the only wide receiver on the field.
Yep.
So now the Eagles, my guess is they anticipated this. They anticipated the coverage, that it would be this kind of coverage, a split safety coverage. And let's take a look as we start this. So what you're going to see if you focus on Jeffrey, right about here. Okay, so now what you're going to get a void in the zone. Remember, there were 3 receivers to the top, but there's the void in the zone. So that's where Nick Foles knows the void will be based on the split safety coverage. And you can take Jeffrey with the throw right into that void. So you throw the ball with timing and anticipation, and you take him into the zone void. So let's see that. You see how early he throws the ball before the break, catches it, and obviously he breaks the tackle and then is on his horse for 52 yards. But that was well done. As I said, I'm sure they anticipated that they would get that coverage with that personnel and with that empty formation.
Yeah, great game planning there from the Eagles coaching staff. Great execution on the field. This leads to a Jake Elliott field goal, ties the game at 16 in the third. So the Eagles get the ball back now tied at 16, and we're going to see this big play. It's actually the biggest pass play, Greg, since 2010 for this team. 83 yards from Nick Foles to Nelson Aguilar. Break down what we see here and what makes this play happen for Nelson.
It's really interesting because what the Eagles are doing here, they line up with Alshon Jeffrey as the X ISO, the single receiver to the boundary, which is his predominant position.
Sure.
But what's interesting about this is how the Texans react to that on this given play is they're going to go with a dedicated double on Jeffrey with the corner, obviously, but this safety here is doubling Jeffrey, a hard, dedicated double. So now what does that do? They have trips to the field. They've got Ertz inside, and they've got Nelson Aguilar right here. Those are the key people. So, but if you see now, because of this safety dedicating the double onto Jeffrey, you get basically man-to-man, 0 man. There's no help over the top of any of these players. So that whole area is wide open. So now what we'll do is we can clear this, Fran, and we can run the play and keep your eye on all this. And if we freeze it, as we see right about here. So what happens? There's the double, clear. Here's Ertz with Justin Reed, the safety, running with him. So what does that do with Aguilar? He's now one-on-one running the deep post against Tyrann Mathieu, and there's no help. So that's where Nick Foles is looking, and he has to move and navigate the pocket, and he does it beautifully, but he's waiting for that to all happen because he knows he has the one-on-one with the deep post to Aguilar versus Mathieu. So let's now run this. This is a great throw, by the way, because this is a long-distance throw, and he drops it right in the bucket. Beautifully thrown ball, but very interesting how the Texans would play that.
Yeah, anytime you're running a deep post route down the middle of the field from an inside receiver, you want that to go right between the pipes and then went right between the hashes. Beautiful
no
throw.
question. And if that post safety is removed, as he was with the double, then there's no one there.
So coming off this play now, Greg, we got to start this off with Nick Foles. Obviously, a huge performance in the win. What were your overall thoughts watching the game on TV?
Thought he was very calm, very composed. I thought he threw the ball really well. I thought he knew exactly where to go with the ball, and I thought he played a fine game. The other thing I think that has really stood out these last couple of weeks, which just predates Nick starting, is how important Darren Sproles is to this offense. I think he's absolutely critical. That kind of player in today's NFL, that back who can give you the run game. We've seen sprint draw become a big part of the Eagles' offense. We've seen his ability to get on the edge as a receiver. So important to the Eagles' offense. But there's no question that Nick Foles with a really outstanding performance.
Yeah, at the end of this, after that Aguilar touchdown, the game went back and forth, and it went down to the very end, like we mentioned earlier. Huge catch on the final drive by Zach Ertz, who had an outstanding game, obviously set the NFL record for most catches with a season. Talk about what Ertz means to this offense.
Well, I think Ertz means so much for this simple reason. He is so good in the middle of the field, which is the toughest area to work because there's so many bodies, and he has such a great feel against zone coverage and a great understanding of how to play off leverage versus man coverage. And he's so good because those throws are right in front of the quarterback, and if he feels comfortable delivering the ball right in front of him to Zach Ertz, which both Carson Wentz and obviously Nick Foles do, then that really helps your offense. He's a sustainer of offense.
Yeah, so the Eagles stay alive now with this win over the Houston Texans. Minnesota wins, so now we go into this final week. Eagles have to beat Washington. Minnesota has to lose against the Chicago Bears. We'll see how this all plays out.
The game matters, and that's all we were hoping for before today's game.
That's exactly right. So the Eagles stay alive. Greg Cosell and I will be back this week to break down what we saw on film from this matchup, as well as preview the upcoming game against the Washington Redskins. Again, a must-win for this Eagles team. Stay tuned for the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. That'll be up on PhiladelphiaEagles.com Tuesday morning or Monday night if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. Until then, we'll see you next week here on the All-22 Review, driven by AAA.